This week, Julie, I saw a programme on Channel 4 called Dispatches with Michael Burke, and he was talking about the change in pensions that the government's bringing in April. And it's, if I understand it right, you can now take a lump sum of, a tax-free lump sum of £25,000. Is that right?
25%. You always could take 25% of your pension pot as a tax-free lump sum, and you still can do that. But to understand the changes, you have to understand a bit about how it used to work. So let's take an example. So you had £100,000 in your pot, in your pension pot. You come to retirement. You could take 25,000 of it out and blow it, but the 75,000 that was left had to be exchanged for an income for life.
And that's an annuity.
It can be an annuity. It always used to be an annuity.
Yeah.
An annuity, you give up the £75,000 and you swap it for an income for life, and let's say that was £5,000. And the problem with that was that if you died early and you only got, say, 2 years of your £5,000 back,
so that'd be like 10 grand.
Yeah,
you've lost
the rest of it.
£65,000. That's not fair.
No, that's not fair. You could put guarantees onto it so that it paid for a minimum of 10 years.
Right, but if you died after 2 years, who gets? You say guaranteed?
Well, yeah, if you had a 10-year guarantee, the rest, and you died in year 2, 8 years worth of income would go to your beneficiaries, whoever you named, and you will usually your wife.
Yeah.
But what's changing is that the other 75% of your pot, so in this example 75,000, you can now access that. Instead of buying an annuity, you can just take it all out. The difference is that that bit is taxed at your highest rate.
Because they didn't mention that.
They didn't mention that, which was actually the biggest problem with this, the whole new flexibility thing.
Do you think the reason they're doing this now is A, because there's an election coming up, and B, so they can... What will they use that tax for, do you think? Is it to pay for all these people who are going to have to go on state pension? Because they have no pension.
I'm, as you know, quite cynical about this whole thing. I think that it is a very cynical attack on pension income by the government, because what will happen is that everybody that has a pension, most people, were brassed off about the fact that they couldn't get their hands on it all at once.
Yeah.
So the government's going, we're doing you a favour now, we're letting you access all the money out of a pension. What they're not saying is, but the vast majority of it's going to be taxed, and it's going to be taxed at high rates.
At 40%?
Well, in that example that I gave you, it would be taxed, some of it would be taxed at 40%. It's taxed at your highest rate. If you have £75,000 of income, you're a higher rate taxpayer.
Yeah.
So in that example...
Even if it's a one-off lump sum, that's counted as a...
It's counted as income is going to be taxed.
Okay.
And that was what was missed out of the Dispatches programme, was there was no mention of tax, which is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen, and there's been some research around this, which is really scary, is that the research that's been done on people who are approaching retirement say that they're going to extract all the money out of the pension scheme and then put it in the bank, which is nonsense, because in the pension scheme it's tax-free.
Yeah.
To get it out, you have to pay tax on it, and then you put it in a bank account which is taxable. So you've had a double whammy on it. Now, the government, I think, are well aware of this, so they're expected to get a several £billion tax windfall as a result of people not understanding what's going on.
But there's another worry as well. So what if all these people then go, well, hey, I'm going to take my money out, I'm going to go and sail around the world. What happens when they actually come to retirement then? What have they got to live on?
They won't have any money.
Did you see, there was a man interviewed who was living on the state pension, and he was basically saying, don't do it, I can't afford it. Because then presumably all these people are going to be relying on state pensions, which the government's going to have to pay for. Yeah,
but what there's another thing that's sort of misunderstood about this, is that before this pension flexibility was brought in, the flat rate state pension was announced. In other words, everybody's going to get the same amount of pension. Now, you're aware, I'm sure, that everybody gets state pension regardless of how much you've got. So if you're a multimillionaire, you still get a state pension.
Yeah.
So, and this flat rate state pension, which there's been some more announcements on that, which is a completely separate subject about a lot of people won't even qualify for it. That flat rate of pension is all you're going to get. So it's the equivalent of, in today's money, of about 150 quid. So if you think you can live on £150 a week, go ahead and blow all your pension. That's fine. But it's not a massive amount of money in retirement. Now, what used to happen when I talked about the annuities, a few years ago, instead of buying an annuity, you could buy the equivalent of an annuity but directly from your pension fund pot. And this is a mechanism called drawdown.
Right.
And in drawdown, you would look at what annuity you could buy, but instead of buying the annuity, because of the problems we discussed, which is you lose your pot of money, you keep your pot of money, but you take the equivalent of the annuity out of the pot of money, and the pot of money keeps investing. The problem with this is that it depends on the growth rate of that pot of money and how much you're taking out of it as to how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
When it was tied up to annuity rates, those were the amounts that people could take out without it depleting the fund, depending on growth and various other things, but it was designed to last a lifetime. The problem, as dispatchers said, is that people are living a lot longer.
Yeah.
So your pot of money has a bigger job to do for a longer period of time, and annuities are flat rates that are paid out for as long as you live. So if you lived for 50 years, it would continue to pay out for 50 years and you win.
Yeah.
If it only paid out for 2 years, you lose.
Yeah.
So, and the rate of annuity was calculated by reference to how many people did die in year 2 and how many people lived to age 50. So that's how all those annuities were calculated. So it was a good idea to restrict how much you could access from it, partly for tax purposes, but partly because of longevity. You're going to live a long time, you need your money to last a long time. And our worry is that everybody's going to take all the money out of these pensions, blow it too soon, and have nothing to live on.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen.
It is.
It's going to happen. And then there's not only nothing to live on, what about all those people who need long-term care and all that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
What are they going to do?
Exactly. Well, I think we're all well aware, and
who's going to pay for it?
I'm still cynical about this, is that these are moves to try and get the vote in the run-up to an election.
Yeah, I agree.
And we'll leave the mess with another party at some point down the line. Which is what all politicians do.
They do. Another thing that Michael Burke pointed out, because he's of the age where he's got a pension, a private pension, and he was informed that you have to make this decision as to whether to take the lump sum or to buy an annuity or whatever it is. But his pension provider said, if you do nothing, don't let us know what you plan to do, it will automatically go into an annuity. And the expert he was talking to said, oh, well, that's not normal, that won't happen, that's not normal, don't worry about that. If you do nothing, they can't do that. Most people can't do that. What do you think?
Well, it's quite unusual in our experience. If you do nothing in the run-up to retirement, bearing in mind that you don't have to take your retirement benefits at the time that your retirement plan was written to. In other words, if you said, I want to take it at 65, you don't have to take it at 65. Normally, the product provider would write to you, so let's say it was Standard Life or Aviva would write to you and go, what do you want to do with it? If you didn't say anything, they'd just leave it invested. It's rare, and I've not seen it very often, although I've seen it a couple of times where they would say, and if you don't do anything, I'm going to give you an annuity.
Yeah. Right, okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Because the other thing, we don't know where this is going to go, because as far as I'm concerned, it's complete nonsense. There are moves afoot to allow you to unravel an annuity that you've already bought. So, because what they're saying is the new pension flexibility and pension freedom isn't fair on those people that were forced to buy an annuity.
Yeah.
With all those problems that we spoke about, which was that if you die young, you lose, and that if you bought an annuity when interest rates were very low, you've locked onto a very low rate and you've got that forever. You've also got obviously the problem of inflation on a flat rate amount of money. Inflation eats into the buying power of it. But unravelling annuities is, I can see that ending up as the biggest mis-selling scandal of this of this decade.
The next one.
Yeah, if it
goes
ahead.
We do another one anyway.
Yeah. Well, we should have another mis-selling scandal.